Very important topic here on the Dynasty channel right now, because in the redraft world, this answer is easy right now, I think, for everybody. Walking into week 17, assuming CMC stays healthy throughout the remainder of the NFL season, but also the playoffs, the 2023/2024 NFL playoffs, assuming Christian McCaffrey walks out the other side completely healthy. If you're watching this video in June or May, he's the 1.1 in 2024 redraft. But the question at hand is he a top 1 to 5 running back? And is he the number 1 overall running back in Dynasty fantasy football? Even if I told you you have a year and a half of the exact same production, but 1.5 years into this man's go forward amount of seasons left, he starts getting injured and falling apart. Is he still your 1.1 in Dynasty? The Fantasy Football Show Dynasty Edition, Christian McCaffrey Edition, begins right now.
Live from the FantasyFootballShow.com studios.
It's the Fantasy Football Show. Live!
Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Smitty is also live whenever news breaks.
Little late for this, I know. Let's have Ron and Travis call in on this one if you guys are free and around. If you're not, no problem. But I'd love to have, what's this, player. There it is. Christian McCaffrey. Is he your Dynasty 1.1? It's okay if he's not. Is he your Dynasty 1.2, your Dynasty 1.4, your Dynasty 1.10? There's no wrong answer here, by the way. But would love to know, and Travis, again, Ron, you guys don't have to call in. I know it's super late. It's 2:08 a.m. Eastern. It's 12:08 a.m. my time. But would love for anybody to dial into the phone line. Phone line is on screen right here if anybody would like to dial into the show. That's not Ron or Travis. Travis, what's up, my guy? Where are you? We've had this conversation before on the main channel, and you'll have to forgive me if I forget your answer. And for those watching, they don't know it anyway. So give me an overall ranking for Christian McCaffrey in Dynasty. And remember, there's no wrong answer here. This is a total preference situation. McCaffrey, Dynasty, not running back, overall, where would you slot him?
Overall.
One point what?
Think about that. Probably. Oh man, I'd have to think about that a little deeper.
All right, let me go to Ron. Ron's on the phone too. Ron, you're live.
Yeah, go to Ron.
1 point what, Ron? Or 2 point whatever. I mean, whatever you feel. There's no wrong answer here. It's just like McCaffrey's probably the 1.1 in 2024 redraft. Whether we agree with that or not, I'm not saying we don't. I'm just saying no matter what anybody says, McCaffrey will be. Yeah. So where does he go in Dynasty though?
Maybe 3.5.
3 point. Whoa. Now I know Ron's a little new to Dynasty. Not to say he hasn't completed a full season or so in Dynasty, but I venture to say that he's still going locked into the top 12.
I'm new too.
Yeah. So
I'm new to Dynasty.
Yeah, and if anybody else wants to get in here, whether it's DeBalt, whether it's Matt O, whether it's Rodney, Ron's shocking me with the third round. Look, you're not crazy, Ron, to think of it from that perspective that, okay, you have a lot of people with a Dynasty mindset. If someone's 25, 26, they want to get rid of them. They're like, I need 22, 23-year-old players only. And so you're not wrong in that a lot of people have that kind of mentality. But like CMC for, let's call it 1.5 years. Let's say he gives you the full 2024 season of being a top 1 to 5 running back, and then he starts playing that way at the beginning of his 2025 season but falls apart midseason. I venture to say people will still value CMC to the tune of I would say 1.5 to 1.10. And I know that's hard to like fathom, because you're basically telling somebody that he might be worthless in a year and a half, 2 years, and that's certainly possible. And if anybody out there thinks CMC is going to last forever, Kelsey, we heard the same thing. Even entering 2023, you heard the same thing. Eckler, he'll be fine. He's, he catches a lot of footballs. He'll be okay. Eckler fell off the face of the earth. Kelsey fell off the face of the earth. This guy will eventually fall off the face of the earth. It's going to happen. But it's such an interesting topic, though. Like, I'll say 1.5 to 1.10, even knowing he had 1.5 years left, if you guaranteed me that. Ron's thinking third round, which Ron's not wrong. Ron's just thinking to himself, I enjoy drafting a Breece Hall, a guy that's going to give me longevity, a guy like Gibbs, or maybe wide receiver shop. Maybe go with a quarterback that can give you 10 years. So I get it. I understand it. But we got a TM42 with a 1.6 vote. I'm just going to drag these on the screen. But if anybody wants to call in and discuss this, I got to get this off screen.
Well, yeah. Get the old, get the new.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just he's done so good this year. He's carrying people. This is one thing I was talking about the other night on the Dynasty channel, is that I have a buddy that no matter what Dynasty League or Keeper League we start, that I've started with him over the last 2 decades that I've known him, he always drafts like redraft in a Dynasty. And every single time he's done it that I've been in the league with him, the league lasts 3 or 4 or 5 years max. And he cleans up. He wins the first year, or, we rotate because usually he or I would win it back in the day. And he would literally be a top 2 team guaranteed the first year or 2 of the league, and it crumble by year 3 or 4 anyway. And it's, and when you think about it, Dynasty, how many times, Ron, have you tried to play in a Dynasty league and it fell apart in your young Dynasty career so far?
Well, I've had one fall apart, but they kept it going, so they got rid of the. But I suck at Dynasty, so.
I suck at Dynasty. Let's get somebody else. Matto, I don't know if you can call in. Matto, slip away and try and call in. Rodney, I know it's late, guys. Thomas, somebody call in DeBolt. I want to get a Dynasty take on this. Another Dynasty take. Go ahead, Travis.
Like the way I was thinking, like. I said I had to think it over just because, like, when we were doing the video the other night, I had him as, like, my 3rd Dynasty running back. I think I had him as number 3 in running back. And so then I was trying to think it through, like, okay, if I take 2 or 3 running backs ahead of him, there's probably, like, 2, 3, 4 wide receivers I'd take ahead. So that would probably put him, like, end of the first round, beginning of the second for me. I guess is where I drop him in.
And there's nothing.
But I completely understand being higher or lower depending on how you want to build your team. It's a lot of strategy involved. So
yeah, and there's nothing wrong. Like, I just want to preface here. Like, there's two schools of thought with Dynasty. There's the now mentality and the future, and then there's everything in between. So there's different, like, degrees in between. So it's not like you have to be one or the other. But those are the 2 schools of thought. Let's go over to a 916 caller. Who's this? Where are you calling from, bro?
What's up, brother? It's Maddie calling from Northern California, Sacramento.
Matto?
Matthew. You call me Matt.
Oh,
Matthew,
okay. But this isn't Matto from the chat. What's your YouTube handle?
It's my YouTube handle is it's Mark Attitude Era.
Okay. I just want to make sure you weren't Matto, because Matto is in the chat. I'm like, hey, Matt. Okay, so, like, okay, before I ask you to answer the question, we have now mentality, future mentality, and then the degrees in between. And like I said, I've got a buddy who drafts not like slightly toward the now. He literally drafts as if it's redraft. If he was in a Dynasty startup, he'd take CMC 1.1. He'd look at everybody like they're morons, and everybody else would look at him like he doesn't know this is a Dynasty league. And guess what happens? The league, I would say, the divorce rates in the United States are probably lower than the rates of collapse for Dynasty startup leagues. I almost guarantee you there's some sort of 75% chance that your league folds within 4 to 5 years. And my friend absolutely dominates that percentage and ratio and the odds of that game because he drafts for the now. So back to my point, CMC at the 1.1 in Dynasty isn't even crazy, because if you can win a bunch of cash money in your league and still have a pretty decent shot of maybe winning the second year, and you're confident enough that you'll either trade him at the right price, or you'll just develop the talent on your bench, pick up the next Kyron Williams, and then it doesn't even matter that you lose CMC. So let me ask you the question, Matty.
Mm-hmm.
What pick overall? 1.5, 1.8, 2.5? What is CMC to you in a dynasty startup?
Oh man, I would take him around 1.5 to 1.8, somewhere in that middle ground. You got to think that's Shanahan's baby right there. I don't see him going anywhere. I think the 49ers are such a run-centric team. I don't see them, changing up. And his usage rate is just crazy. But, he stayed healthy pretty much most of the season, which I think was big. Was a big problem sort of in the early part of his career. But
so Derrick Henry's 29 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, McCaffrey's 27 years old. 28. This is not me spitballing or just coming up with something on my own. It's very, very, very accepted across the fantasy industry that 28 years old, the data supports it, is your only likely strong chance of being elite if you're an elite player. Like Mostert wasn't an elite player for years and years and years. He's 31 years old. He's still doing it because his mileage is low. He's finally being asked to be a heavy-duty, workload guy. But if you're in the conversation of a top 5 running back year over year over year over year, you have the volume that falls into this bucket of evaluation. So if you're CMC, you're Eckler, you're Henry, you're even like an ETN potentially, a Kamara, all those guys, 28. If you're 28 and you turn 28 before the season begins, you don't turn 29 though. You turn 28 and you enter that season at 28, you most likely have, if you're lucky, that 1 year left. Henry did it at 28. Henry also is currently spotty, but doing it for sure at 29. He is the only outlier, and you should not accept that anybody else is going to be in that bucket because it's just a rarity. But maybe CMC is a guy that can do it at 28 and 29, and then at 30 he falls apart. He would be the only player that I would be tempted to say could do what Derrick Henry's doing, just because he takes care of his body so well, and he's just a unique player. He catches a lot of footballs, doesn't run everything up the gut, so there's that. He can save himself a little bit. And we saw Kamara look pretty good. Maybe Kamara, people think he fell off. By the time people watch this, we're entering week 17. So at this current moment we're doing this live stream, we don't know how Kamara did in week 17 yet. He crapped the bed in week 16. People are mad. People think maybe he puttered out at the end. But week 17 hasn't played out yet. And so Kamara's 28. There's still thought that Kamara could enter next year at 29 and do well for a little while, but the odds are he's going to fall off at some point during his 29 age season. It's just so hard to defy it. But if anybody can do it for 2 years, it is CMC. And so from a dynasty perspective, I think this warrants top 5 consideration. Given the team, given that even next year they're probably going to be pretty damn good, even if they lose players. Let's say they lost, I don't know.
Ayuk.
Yeah. I mean, Ayuk's in a contract year, so technically they could trade him. But
that's what I was hearing, that it might move them around.
Yeah, but like at the same time, it's like this team's going to be kind of well held together, and they've got this window of 2 years. So I think this year, which will be his 28 age season next year, and then this year he might start falling apart maybe during the end of it, maybe looking like Kamara. But then I got to pose the question though, like let me go to Ron, since Ron is not he's getting into Dynasty, so I think he has a little bit of like a, I don't want to say this in a way that sounds bad, Ron, but like more of a blind reaction to this, and it'd be more genuine because we're all so geared up for Dynasty. You might just be kind of like, let me tell you my honest take that's not biased or anything. What are the odds, Ron, in your mind, that Christian McCaffrey can follow the very, very anomaly-like path that Henry's on versus what we saw Kelsey do this year, or we're seeing Kelsey do this year, and given what Eckler's track is on. At 28 years old, Eckler is falling apart. He's slowing down. What odds would you give CMC of going the route of Eckler this upcoming 2024 season at the age of 28?
Yeah, it could happen. I mean, if he starts throwing touchdowns like Henry, he might survive, but I don't know. I mean, he played for the 49ers half a year. He was injured at the beginning of the year, remember, when he's on Carolina, and this is really only his full year, so I still got injury concerns for him.
Yeah, are we crazy to be like,
did he
how do
miss
we?
any games?
He hasn't yet, but this year. But are we crazy to not consider that there was 2 years where he couldn't stay healthy, and it was not just one injury? It was like, you know, are we crazy to consider that? Are we crazy to be like, look, this is a great year, it's an anomaly year, but everybody thought Kelsey, and including me. I every offseason I say, I don't know when Kelsey's going to drop off, boys. I feel like it could be this year, but let's give him one more year. Let's push our chips in one more time because he looks so good. Like, you know, coming out of last season, he looked so good. But wouldn't anybody say that Kelsey's likelihood of falling off is it can't be any worse than what McCaffrey's is going to be? Like, walking into the 2023 season, I don't think very many people at all thought this would be Kelsey's downfall year. Nobody saw Taylor Swift coming in everything, but I think that if we could be honest with ourselves, Kelsey looked just as strong and ready to go for 2023 as McCaffrey will look going into 2024. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think Kelsey and Mahomes, they're too busy off making Allstate commercials when they should be concentrating on football. They both look like ass.
Yeah.
They're both playing like ass. And Kansas City, I mean, they look horrible. They don't look like they're going far in the playoffs at all. I mean, they got to stop worrying about commercials and all that. But see, that's what gets me is they really weren't playing. I don't know. Anyways, I
let me go to DeBalt real quick because he's been waiting on the line. You're live, DeBalt. Where do you rank McCaffrey in 2024 Dynasty? Right now in Dynasty, if you're drafting.
Dynasty, startup Dynasty, I would still have him at the 101, depending if it's Superflex or not. If it's Superflex, he'll probably drop to the 2.5.
1.1, wow.
But the thing, though, with McCaffrey is he's 28, and he's got the mileage. But you remember, he didn't play for 2 years. So I believe he's still going to be doing this type of a production up into his 30s, dependent on how the Niners use him. And we all know that Shanahan's not real good with his players.
Yeah,
but I believe he can do it for a few more years.
You know what's weird about though? Hold on, real quickly. Let me just address this.
Yep.
Like, you make a good point in terms of like the mileage that he had for not really doing much, but he was the most overused running back, and really still is, in the National Football League for his team in terms of consuming the plays and being a part of the offense. His percentage of involvement in every offensive play has been higher than anybody, I would say, and I'm guessing on this, but I think I'm right, than any player in the National Football League through his entire career. So missing 2 years isn't that actually, he's still way ahead of anybody that has played the amount of years he's played. So I know what you're saying, but at the same time, his mileage is crazy. And I just think that, again, I'm not being, this is not me advocating for doubting McCaffrey in 2024. This is just having that conversation that we had with Kelsey, and Smitty approved him and pushed him on through to 2023 and said, one more year, one more year, Kelsey. Same thing with McCaffrey. We're going to stamp it, and we're going to shove him on through and give him his walking papers into 2024 to be, free of any risk. But I'm just saying, like, we felt as strong about Kelsey as we should be feeling about McCaffrey, and it could fall off like that. I don't think well into his 30s, bro. I think, like, Maybe he can do his 28-year-old season, maybe his 29. But I don't think there's any chance he's playing at this level at 30, let alone 31 or anything else. Like 30s would be almost near impossible. Only because his mileage isn't like Mostert's, bro. His mileage is through the roof. Mostert didn't get used. And your body at 31, 32 breaks down no matter whether you used it or not. Like the 32-year-old player can't do what a 27-year-old player can do, even if he never played it down. Like your body just, it's not the same for the running back. It's kind of proven over time with there's so much data for it. 32, you can't do it.
And to your point, that you had mentioned earlier, it's interesting. Kyle Shanahan had a quote today in his press conference, and he was talking about McCaffrey's durability and sort of how he prepares for a season. And he's basically saying that, I went out for a drink with Christian maybe 4 days after the season ended, and Christian had told Kyle Shanahan, hey, I'll have one more drink, and that's pretty much going to last me for the next 4 days because I'm going to start training again and start rehabbing my body and start training a week after the season ends. And I think he is built a little bit different in the way his dad was kind of similar.
Yeah, he definitely trains and prepares and takes care of his body. So that's why I'm saying we're giving him what we don't give anybody. Like I'm telling you, you should not give a single player the benefit of the doubt of being elite at 29 years old. Henry has done it, but that does not open up a pathway for it. It doesn't. He is an anomaly beyond anomalies. And only am I only willing to overlook this rule of mine, which is just let everybody take the risk. 87 times out of 100, they're going to get it wrong. So like maybe even 95 out of 100, they're going to get it wrong. Maybe there will be this occasional player that does it, like Mostert, for example. The odds were extremely against Mostert doing what he did with his injury-prone history and being 31 years old. It's crazy. The odds were astronomically against it. But we're going to see this once in a while, but every time you gamble on that, you're going to get burned, 90% of the time minimum. So all I'm saying is McCaffrey, I think, gets this pass. Nobody else should, in my opinion. And unless we come across that player, maybe Bijan's that player, maybe, whoever the hell is that player.
Figure out how to use him.
Yeah, maybe at 29 years old, he'll finally get carries. and we'll be like, hey, he's fresh. He's good. He's good to go.
I was
hold on. Let's let Travis. Travis, what were you saying? And then we'll go to Ron.
No, just for the he has a ton of mileage, which that definitely at some point will be the end of him. He'll just wear down. But I actually would kind of argue that he shed the injury-prone tag because, knock on wood, he makes it through these last 2 games. He didn't miss any games last year or this year.
Yeah.
So if a guy's gone 2 straight years,
I can agree with that.
I think you have to give him the benefit of the doubt, But I know some people will just say injury-prone stays forever. I believe in injury-prone. Some people don't believe in it. They think it's all bad luck. But yeah. I also think after a couple of years, you have to give the guy the benefit of the doubt and say, like, maybe he made a change. It could just be luck, but like I don't know if it was DeVault or whoever was saying, he's on top of his body. He knows what he has to do to get himself ready, So I think he kind of deserves the benefit of the doubt in terms of injury,
Yeah, his touches, I think this is correct. I think his total touches are 1788, I think. Which is crazy, in a short period of time, 2017. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This will be his 7th season. I mean, I would say once he gets over 2,100 total touches, and he starts breaching that 2,200. I think that's going to be, it's going to be a little dangerous. I don't think it's dangerous right now. Could he miss 2 games next year? Sure, but guess what? 2 games of McCaffrey out with the replacement player you have to plug into your lineup still is the number 1 running back. That's what I think people need to understand about, especially with cuffing. Like if there was a good cuff, and we don't know who the cuff is in San Francisco, it's whoever's healthy, and you can't even predict that because Mitchell's always hurt. But like, let's say you had another player like Ty Chandler. Ty Chandler, let's say last week and this week, and then McCaffrey those are the only 2 weeks you got to plug in. McCaffrey plus Ty Chandler still is the number one, like, you know what I mean? So, like, I'm not worried about him missing 1 or 2 games next year or the next year. It's a matter of, does he drop off, or does he, like Cooper Kupp this year, on and off the field, can't stay healthy, that type of thing, you know? And Kupp's another one. We'll have a video on Kupp alone. I like to keep on these Dynasty shows 1-player topics. I think that's going to be the premise of the Dynasty channel, and I think that's going to help me create lots of content on each individual player. So we'll probably wrap it up here in a second, just to keep it as tightly. I don't know. It's getting late too, but let's go over to Ron, and then I'm going to go over to Matt, and then over to DeBolt, and then kind of cycle everybody off the phone line. But Matt, what are your final thoughts on this? Or no, Ron, go ahead.
Matt can go if you want.
All right, Matt, what do you got, pal? Final thoughts on this situation?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything he kind of laid out there. I think he's got some more. I'm not saying he's Frank or anything like that, but he's gonna I think have a longer upper tier run. I think next year he's probably going to be around the same production, and I think in 2025 or 26 he might start to kind of slow up a little bit. But I would still take him. I mean, in Dynasty, you got to think he's still going to be up there, 1 to 1.5.
Yeah, I mean, again, I feel like the odds of you missing on your first round pick are a lot higher than you'd guess too. So to take CMC and to get CMC a guarantee for that 1 to 2 years, or as guaranteed as you can get, instead of like missing on, like let's say you took Bijan instead, last year over CMC, which I think most people would have done, because he hadn't yet proved, like Travis said, 2 years that he could, you know what I mean? So, like, you would have been screwed this year. You're probably going to get screwed, to some degree next year, unless Arthur Smith gets fired and everything changes. And even then, CMC's still the 1.1 in 2024 redraft. So, you're winning this 2 years in a row by drafting CMC. And I just think, you can't take it for granted what he can do for you for a year and a half, maybe 2 years if you're lucky. And then who knows what your team's going to look like by then. Maybe you're so well equipped, with this squad, you're scooping up guys like Kyren, and you eventually replace CMC with Kyren, that type of move. And it doesn't matter. Like it really, just go out there and do work, get your team built in a crazy fashion through trades and free agency. And don't worry so much about every startup draft pick you have being youthful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Smitty, real quick, if you can. If you got Bijan, Pacheco, or Mostert, who are you taking? You need 2 of them.
For what?
For this week.
For this week?
Championship.
This is the Dynasty channel, bro. We don't do redraft on here. I'll answer this question for you. Mostert who?
Pacheco and Bijan, pick 2.
I'm not trusting Pacheco yet. First of all, we don't even know his full status, but I'm not trusting him coming back with those 2 options. But Bijan and Pacheco are close, but you're not sitting Mostert. Unless Mostert sits, then it's an easy call. Mostert plays.
Appreciate it, brother.
Yeah. All right, later, bro.
Thanks, brother.
Okay, that was Matty, right? So DeBolt, final thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah, no offense to anybody if you ask me like a now question, but I can't let this channel get overwhelmed with redraft questions, or it doesn't even hold its meaning. DeBolt, hit me with it. What do you got? Final thoughts on this topic?
I would still take the CMC and the start of Dynasty at the 101, but mid-season, depending on how my team's rolling, I would look to then trade him. See if I can get maybe a Gibbs and something else, or Kyren and something else. But I would use the name to try to get longevity in my team if I'm not rolling so hot this year. If I'm rolling hot and I'm going to run for the chip, I'm sticking with him.
Yeah, the problem is though, in mid-season, are you going to get what you want out of Christian McCaffrey, or would it be safer to say, hey, I drafted a team to win now, I'm going to win now, and just let the wheels fall off? Because I don't know, it's tough to trade a guy like that mid-season. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people would take him, but I don't think you'll get what you want. It's weird. People are weird about trading for older players, man. Doesn't matter, even if he's doing well. You know, like no one's trading for Derrick Henry in a dynasty format. They're just not. Doesn't matter how he's playing. Doesn't matter if he has 3 touchdowns. No one's trading for him in a dynasty format. I think CMC will be a little different, but I venture to say it's better to just let the wheels fall off on this. Like if you're gonna have the balls to draft him in round 1 in dynasty startup, you should just fully commit to it. You know what I mean? I get what you're saying, but I just don't know if it's the smartest move. You might as well go get that other player that you want so badly, because that's the only value he's going to have. Like, if you take him at the 1.1, who is the best player in the league that you'd rather have after McCaffrey in a dynasty startup? JJ, right? Someone like that. Let's just call it a level down below. Let's say Jamar Chase, who's got question marks, staying healthy. That situation is constantly disappointing us year over year. I'm not saying that Chase won't prove that to be not a concern in 2024 and 2025, etc. But if you said I'm going to trade CMC mid-season, like what are you going to get? A Jamar Chase? You'd be lucky to, and then you might as well just draft Jamar Chase. You might as well draft JJ. You know what I mean? Instead of taking CMC 1. That's all I'm saying is this sounds like a great plan, but at the end of the day, are you really going to get JJ? Probably not. So you might as well just draft him if that's your thinking. You know, mid-season, I want JJ. Just draft JJ. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. It all depends on the way your team's rolling. I traded for CMC and HN, and I traded with Josh Allen because I already had AR5 and Stroud this year in Dynasty. So I really wasn't worried about it. And I was first, and I am first, and I have projected to win in our startup season. But I am going to be trading him next week. And I'm going to try to get the 101 to get a BH.
Yeah.
But that's my outlook on it, because I also have
anything's possible. Sure.
Yeah, I mean I'm pretty stacked on RB, so
yeah,
I'm gonna ride him high, but I still believe I can get 2 more years out of him.
Yeah. All right.
Depends on how your team's going.
The Bolt to the Moon, guys. Subscribe. Get those. Watch if you can. Watch some of the videos on the Dynasty channel. The watch time. I need to get the watch time up in order to. Thomas said I need to get super chats on here. I just need to get the watch time of the channel up to get it under qualification for it, because I haven't done anything on the Dynasty channel pretty much all year. But we're changing that. I'm changing that now. So the watch time helps if you guys watch the videos and get that watch time up. Thank you, DeBolt. Appreciate you, bro.
Appreciate you.
Later. I plan to make this channel. I promise you, my goal is to have this channel be as big as the main channel. Double A, man. Where have you been? You're live.
Behind the scenes, man. Just listening.
Attaboy.
It never ends in my world, but don't think I'm not listening all the time.
Where's CMC Dynasty startup for you? Give me a draft slot.
As I pulled up the video, I was sitting there thinking to myself, like you said, maybe I always want to be a year ahead of being right and getting off before it's too late. Then I got to think to myself, of running back like at this top one, what am I going to get? Maybe 5 good years out of him, 5 solid A+ years.
Yeah.
So if I could get 3 more years of him,
or just 2,
then even just 2, or say I get just like this, and then the last 2 I only get 85% of Christian McCaffrey, and I think that's my 5-year investment. I'll still take it. And then as I looked at, who else would I want more, what I feel more comfortable with, if it wasn't for the offense that he's in, where he just gets so many looks, the red zone touches are always there, 4 to 8 receptions a game, and every year I want to man, this is going to be the year he just doesn't quite get it done. And then I look up, and he's off to the races. And it seems like it only takes him a couple plays and a touchdown here and a touchdown there, and you look up and he's got 125 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, let's use Kyren as an example. You guys know how much I love Kyren. We just did a Dynasty Kyren video, but what's the realistic expectation for Kyren to be an elite top 5 running back before he gets hurt, gets derailed somehow, like probably 3 to 5 years. That means that he's already played one of them, but for moving forward, maybe even 3 to 5 years would be the expectation. If Kyren played elite football this year and played 3 more years of top 5 to 10 running back production, that is not uncharacteristic of a path for a running back to then fall off. So to what you were kind of saying, to kind of highlight what you were saying, and this is how I feel exactly, you get 2 years of McCaffrey doing McCaffrey things, maybe 1.5 years, but 2 years of McCaffrey or 3 to 5 of Kyren. There's a chance that this almost overlaps. There's a chance that McCaffrey falls off just 1 year before Kyren does. So that's where I think that with this situation, especially with running backs. Now, if this was a receiver, it'd be a little different. Like if we're talking about like a Keenan Allen, or I almost want to use a little bit younger receiver. What wide receivers like 27 or 28, 29? Diggs is 30, turning 31, right? I want to say Tyreek Hill. How old's Tyreek? Tyreek Hill's 28?
Devontae? How old is he?
Devontae's 20. Yeah, Tyreek Hill.
Diggs is 30.
Yeah, Tyreek Hill's 29. His birthday's in March. He turns 30 in March. But this is a good example. So let's use Tyreek Hill. Now, my example of, okay, Tyreek Hill's a receiver. So if Tyreek Hill is going to give us at 29 years old, he turns in March, he'll be 29. Let's say he's elite through 31. So 29, 30, let's say 30.5. Let's just we'll give him 29, 30, and then half a year. So we'll give him 2.5 years. And then you give me like a JJ as the other example. Or let's say St. Brown. So St. Brown probably has, what would you say, 7 to 9 years left? Something like that. Big difference.
Yeah, he's 24.
Big difference. The overlaps there's no overlap. There's no chance that these two guys fall off at the same time. There was a chance that Kyren Williams, who's I believe 23 years old, turning 24, could drop off a year after Christian McCaffrey. So with wide receivers, very, very different. That's why you'd want to draft like a St. Brown or a JJ or a Jamar Chase or something over Tyreek Hill in Dynasty, even if we have the same concept at play here where we're like, but Hill, you get Hill for 1 year. Well, you know, there's a big difference between that. So that's kind of why McCaffrey's special here, because he's an RB, and RBs can't be trusted in Dynasty, redraft, in daily fantasy even. Running back might not last a week. But anyway.
Also, would worry about how much longer we have with Goff.
Yeah, like, I mean that's the whole. This is just it's a great question, but this is just an example of like if we use Jamar Chase as an example, even better example, he's got 7 to 9 years. You know, over Hill's got maybe 1.5 to 2.5, 3 at most. So there's no overlap. There's no chance that these guys fall off at the same time. I mean, you never know. Someone could tear, an Achilles or having a career-ending injury. But I'm saying all things considered, that if they're normal, semi-normal, that's just the way I look at this question with Hill versus this question with CMC. Now, I'm not saying Hill doesn't still deserve to be in the top like 5 to 10 in Dynasty with the 2.5 year shelf life. He still does. But I don't think we're contemplating taking Hill over JJ, whereas we are contemplating taking CMC over Gibbs and Hall, and you know what I mean? Totally different, I think, situation. All right, appreciate you guys on the phone line here. Let me circle everybody off. We had double A. Anything else?
No. Happy holidays, everybody.
Yeah, man. Can't wait to see you on the Dynasty channel more, bro. Get those watch hours up. Watch those videos.
Will do. I'll watch it.
All right, later,
yes,
bro.
Sir.
All right, Travis. Anything else?
Yeah, like you were saying with the trades, like it really probably does depend on the league. Cause like I had Dak this year, and I was just going for a higher pick for the next year, and nobody would give me anything for Dak. I mean, nothing.
Yeah.
Like that was even close to worth it, and I would have taken a lower round pick or a bench player or anything. And if you look at the couple of teams that they have, like Flacco is on one of the championship round teams, so that depends. And then the other thing with CMC is he's such an outlier too. It's rare that we get these guys that are produce at the level he is. Like, from the difference between him and the number 2 or like the number 3 or 4 running back is just such a gap. Like, he's producing at a quarterback level if you look at the points. The amount of points he scores. And
I think and like I was saying earlier, to my point, this is probably my final point on it, but like my point about Cooper Kupp was that Cooper Kupp's missed a lot of time this year. He's disappointed a lot of people. He's one of my bigger avoid wide receiver players to not draft, but he became quickly one of my favorite buy low players while he was in injured mode. So kind of like avoid on draft day, let people overpay, and then swoop in and take advantage of the low price tag. But Kupp, when he was on the field, and still to this moment, walking into week 17, can absolutely hang with anybody. He'll be a little inconsistent because they've got Puka there now and they kind of rotate at times, but he can hang with anybody. It's not like the talent's dropped off. I don't think Christian McCaffrey in the next 1 to 2 years, at least 1 to 1.5, will drop off in talent. I think 0% chance. But it's just a matter of how many games does he miss. But when you look at it from the perspective of, again, coupling Kupp with another player that can sub in for you while Kupp is banged up, and then when Kupp's healthy, plug him back in, and at the sum total of your 17 starts between those two players, not starting them at the same time, but just plug and play one versus the other, is a top 5 wide receiver. And so I think that Christian McCaffrey, no matter how many games he misses, if you're cuffing him either to a San Francisco back, which is hard to do because you don't know who it is, they're always hurt, or to another player like Ty Chandler as an example, whatever, that you're going to absolutely crush everybody still. So missing 2-3 games doesn't matter. Even if he, let's say, misses 2 or 3 games next year and misses 3 or 4 games in his 29-year-old season, that 29-year-old season 2 years from now with a player that you feel comfortable with is going to outscore every running back in the National Football League. So it's just a matter of, I think, this year, at least for us, it'll be about, if we're taking a risk on players, Kelsey, you can't do that with. Running backs, you can. Wide receivers, you can't. You can kind of do it in some weird scenarios. You can cuff somebody in a weird way. But like running backs, you can. You can kind of safeguard yourself with a running back that has injury prone, ness, as long as you can plug in other wide receivers. Or in the case of like Cooper Kupp, as long as you got a wide receiver, doesn't have to be a cuff, but a wide receiver you could play in between, then the combination of the two on 17 starts will be fine. So that's the way I look at McCaffrey. He's just, doesn't matter if he misses time. When he's on the field, it'll hurt that week he goes down, though. Like if you lose him in the middle of week 4, and you might lose week 4 because of it, but, it is what it is.
Yeah. The one thing I wanted to just ask you quick, and I can jump off and listen to you answer it. How much do you factor into, like, I know it matters with all running backs, but the offensive line, like Trent Williams, he got hurt this week, and he's 35 years old, and that's a Hall of Fame left tackle,
Yeah,
so I
huge.
just wonder how much do you factor those in to Dynasty and all that.
Huge, but do you know what the Niners' biggest weakness was in the offseason? Offensive line. They're very plug and play. Right. They're a very next man up. In some ways, Shanahan, with parts of his defense and his offensive line, almost likes to have nobodies because he wants them to learn his way and not bring bad habits or whatever they bring. So I almost, obviously Trent Williams is different, but this offensive line isn't a concern, and they were a huge concern in a bunch of no-name guys to some degree walking into the season. Like I remember that being the biggest problem. My Niner buddies, Raj and the quad box, they were like, the offensive line's trash. We got to fix this. But like Shanahan knows how to handle that. So I'm not too worried about that for McCaffrey in this upcoming 2024 season, and I'm not too worried about it in 2025. But,
That's true. The scheme and all that matters too, yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of polling and strange, you got not everybody can play on that San Francisco offensive line. It's a very unique scheme. All right, Travis, appreciate you, bro.
Thanks, buddy. Talk to you later.
Ron, final thoughts, Christian McCaffrey related?
Yeah, I think I'd still take Gibbs. I mean, Gibbs started out, they held back this year, and he's coming on strong, and I think he's even going to be stronger next year, up to the level of McCaffrey, dare I say. And he's younger, and I'd rather use my draft pick in the first round on Gibbs than I would McCaffrey. He's younger, he's capable of just tearing it up next year. He's already tearing it up this year, and that's even after they've held him back at the beginning of the year. So, yeah, I like Gibbs.
I don't hate that take at all.
And how many times do we chase points? How many times do we chase seasons? I mean, we chase players that have this great season, and we chase them, and the next year, and they end up being flops, So, and we all have fallen into that trap before.
Well, I mean, Kelsey and Eckler. Kelsey and Eckler, we just did. That's kind of the whole point of the show is like, are we in a trap? Are we walking into a trap, or are we walking into a trap by not, by avoiding CMC in some degree this year over other players, especially because we're talking from a dynasty perspective. I think everyone that was on the phone line tonight, including myself, would have drafted Bijan over CMC in a dynasty startup without a hesitation walking into the 2023 season. And that didn't work out. And it probably, at the end of the day, if he stays healthy, won't work out again in 2024. So it's like chasing points, you're right. You got to be very careful. Just like Kelsey this year, that was chasing points. Oh, he's so good, and he's not going to drop off. And look what 2023 did. Eckler, he's so good, he's different. Chasing points, didn't work out well. But not chasing the points on CMC was the backfire version of that. But I will say this, Ron, I don't hate your take at all. I certainly would, if I was on the clock in a dynasty startup, bro, I think at the end of the day, if I'm being completely honest with you, I don't think I could pass on Gibbs. But like my logic tells me to draft CMC. It really does, but like at the end of the day, I don't know I'm just being honest. I don't know what I would do, because this is probably my favorite player in fantasy right now is Jahmyr Gibbs. So you're not alone at all. I don't know what I'd do.
Yeah,
I love Bijan too, but
look, even in the best ball playoff stuff, right? Everybody's gonna because Cooper had a great week, last week. They're gonna just start drafting him like crazy. His ADP is gonna rise. And he's not guaranteed to have a great week. I mean, I don't know. It's just like chasing points. I'd rather chase averages and consistency than chase a 1-week wonder. Like Mixon last year, right? Remember that 4-touchdown game he had? Everybody was chasing Mixon and trading for Mixon and giving up the farm for Mixon. And then after that 4-touchdown game, he was crap the rest of the year.
I mean,
he didn't do nothing.
Monty's another example of that. Everybody that came into the live streams for the first couple weeks of the season going, you idiots that drafted Gibbs. Monty was the answer. And, Gibbs has been the answer. People are asking me if they should start Monty in their flex, position heading into week 17 on the regular. Most people can't even put him in their lineup. Not to say you can't do well in week 17 if you're watching this before or watching this after. But I agree with you. This question, Trey says, seems like everyone's forgetting about the second best running back in the league. Before I fully read this entire question, I didn't know what running back you were talking about, but I certainly didn't expect it to be JT. And he says, JT, with that O-line and Steichen, he might be one of the only running backs guaranteed a true workhorse role next year. I'm not saying you're going to be wrong. Like, it could happen, Trey. He certainly is an amazing player, but he's had trouble staying healthy. He had the year prior when he had the best, he was the running back 1 during that season. It was the lowest running back 1 season we had ever really had in recent memory. So it wasn't like he had that year that was Tomlinson-like of old. It was a watered down version of the running back 1 overall. And so I don't hate the take. I just don't necessarily have him in my top 2 or 3 or 4 running backs for Dynasty. I just don't. Doesn't mean I can't.
That JT won.
What?
It was only because Henry got injured. Henry was number 1 before JT, and because of Henry's injury, JT took over that spot.
I take CMC and Gibbs and Breece Hall and Bijan and probably a Kyron and probably 2 or 3 other running backs before I even consider JT. But that's just preference. It doesn't mean you're wrong, Trey. Just I'm not even considering JT in this conversation. But doesn't mean I'm right. All right, Ron. Appreciate you, bro.
Yeah.
Get that watch time up. We need to get the Dynasty channel monetized. I would have had it monetized for sure if I'd done any content this year, but I just kind of left it to the side because I had a lot to build up on the main channel this year. You only have so many hours, but I'm doing different things. I've consolidated some of my day-to-day duties to different things. I've gotten rid of some features and products that I used to have that took up a lot of time. The text line's going away, and that's going to give me like 5 hours a day back. So I'm going to create videos. The text line just became out of control. It's a great product, and it's kind of nice to know nobody else offers it, but there's a reason nobody offers it. It's brutal. It's kind of taking the fun out in some ways, talking to people and having conversation. Like the phone line's here for live advice. So the text line, getting rid of the text line, I got rid of the Zoom calls. I got rid of some of the things that were very intense and took up combinations of hours per week that I'm funneling into creating Dynasty content, getting on my Discord more. If anybody wants to get on my Discord, just go to my Instagram profile. You can click the Discord circle or just go to thefantasyfootballshow.com and you'll see the Discord link in the very, very, very top corner. There's a Discord link. And writing content and creating content for thefantasyfootballshow.com. So I've consolidated everything and I'm a well-oiled machine walking into this 2024 season. And it's going to be insane. So I'm so pumped about the Dynasty channel, pumped about the obviously the main channel, which we're cranking out content all the time. And then the written content's getting a huge upgrade because of the time I got back. So.
Have you done any of the gauntlets or the new, they opened up the new Mitten 2?
No, I haven't done a Mitten. I haven't done a Mitten 2 yet. Yeah, Discord.
Yeah, the Mitten 2's open.
Yeah, I got to do a Mitten 2. Guys, Underdog Fantasy, promo code Smitty. They'll double your first deposit up to $100 by using code Smitty. That link's in the description of the video too. But I can't wait to do. I love the playoff stuff. I've drafted so many teams, Ron, that and I felt the same way in the offseason, to be honest with you. But that I feel like, how do these not win? and then shit happens. And I do believe I'm really, really good though at seeing some of the values of players that are not in the postseason yet that are going to creep up. I don't know if you remember in basketball, I was able to draft LeBron last year when the Lakers were not expected to make the playoffs, and he was like falling to like the 7th or 8th or 9th round in the early playoff drafts that were really far out from the actual NFL playoffs. And I just I was scooping up guys left and right that I felt like those teams would make comebacks. I've got so many teams loaded with Buffalo Bill players, and they were like on the outskirts of making the playoffs. And I did so many of those mitten drafts with Josh Allen, Diggs, Gabe Davis, and James Cook that I'm really excited about the outcome of the mittens. But I mean, it's competitive. It'll be fun though.
Well, that group right there, the Bills, and I noticed throughout. A lot of people are going that direction with the Bills because they're easy to get. They're easy to – because people forget that when you're doing these mittens and gauntlets and the playoff stuff, the goal is to get enough players to get you through the first week, but you want to be able to have 5 starting players in the Super Bowl. You gotta play to win it, and then the other thing is like in the gauntlet, you got to remember that the top 2 teams get through, so you squeak by, but you still need those 5 players to push through whatever team it is, whether it's you're going for the Dolphins, whether you're going for the Bills, whether you're going for, San Francisco or whatever. But if you're going for one of those like Baltimore, San Francisco, you got to watch it because they got the first week bye, and you still got to get through the first week. So it's challenging. It's very challenging. I like that.
Yeah, I've talked to Underdog. I constantly speak with them. Obviously, I've constantly reminded them how critical it is to get leaderboards up for everything. And as you've noticed, leaderboards have been kind of available a little bit more on certain things. So I'm hoping that has helped and will continue to, because there's nothing better than a leaderboard. Like when you know where you're at after a week, and it's hard to do during like the Best Ball Mania, but I think they need to do that. As soon as they've got a leaderboard, like who's leading, and you're in the Best Ball Mania, you don't really have a leader per se, because, you have different rounds, but at least you'll know where you're at. You know what I mean? Like you'll know how good your team is. So even if the leaderboard doesn't necessarily mean anything in the regular season part, at least, it's critical. It makes you competitive. It makes you want to do it, to say, hey, look at my team. I'm in the top 10. I'm obviously dominating my group of 12 to get into that first round of the Best Ball Mania playoffs, but like I'm the top 10 team, and include prizes for that. Like if you're the top 10, a top 10 team in the regular season in the Best Ball Mania, and there's a leaderboard, you should get, X dollars for that. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in 2024 for the Mania if they do something like that. But I keep pushing for it. I keep throwing ideas out to make sure that they tweak this and make it the best product, because Underdog to me is the best product out there, and that's why I use them. Otherwise, I'd go somewhere else. But I
the other brand, and I'm not going to mention the name, but it has a crown. I hate that site. It's so confusing. I hate trying to maneuver around there. It stinks. People try to get me to go on there and do some stuff, but I'm like, I can't stand it. Underdog is so much easier to use, so much easier to understand. Underdog's my favorite site.
Yeah, and hey, I don't know if Michael's here. I'm gonna answer these tomorrow. I had a couple voicemails that were left for me for like the olden days. I'll play those on tomorrow's 8 p.m. show. All right, Ron, I gotta go. Appreciate you, bro.
Yep. Later, Travis. Later, chat.
Later.
Whoever.
Oh, sorry, Ron. I hung up on him a little quick. All right, guys. Appreciate you all. Keep those watch hours up. 20 of you in here. 17 thumbs up. The Dynasty channel is going to be slower moving, but it's kind of like nice. It's kind of quieter. It's kind of gives you the vibes of when we built up the other channel, and it was very, very low key. So that's kind of cool. And it's going to be fun to watch it grow. So we're going to grow very, very quickly, because I'm going to create lots of content, and there's people dying for good Dynasty content. And to be honest with you, about 95% of all the Dynasty content out there is trash. So we're here to fix that, remedy that, and deliver daily Dynasty content. So subscribe if you're new. And appreciate everybody that called in. Travis, Ron, DeBalt. Appreciate you all. And I'm live Monday through Friday on the main channel, which the link is in the description of this video. It's also at the bottom of the channel. If you go down to the bottom of the Dynasty channel or the bottom of the main channel, you'll see the links to all my channels. See you all tomorrow.
If you stop sending me these terrible fantasy football trade offers now, that will be the end of it. I will not look for you. I will not pursue you. But if you don't, I will look for you. I will find you. And I will tell the commissioner on you.